Record. That work? Dude, so I've actually like not really used Zoom very much, so
I'm
we'll
sorry
see.
you have to succumb to this for me.
Nah, look, we try to be like official and use like the podcast tools, but they
I've never seen that before actually.
yeah, yeah, it's weird. So, anyways, welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast.
Somebody hit somebody!
I'm Kyle, and we've got Trevor, and then we're joined by a very special guest, Andrew, vocalist for Combust.
Yo,
So thank you for jumping on. We appreciate it. Time and time again, me and Trevor ask each other why people want to talk to us. So we appreciate you jumping
I mean
on.
that's what I ask podcaster people when they ask me to be on the show, so I get it.
Yeah. So have you done a lot of these? I mean, do you get hit up a lot to do this kind of stuff?
Um, I mean, define a lot. I think there's like a good amount of podcasts with like at this point with me on them. I think I've done a cool amount to where again I'm like, wow, I can't believe six podcasts or so want me to like come on and talk about my bullshit, but that's cool,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you listen to podcasts? Is that like a medium
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like?
I do. I do, yeah. I'm a podcast head.
Hmm, that's cool. I mean, I don't really listen to them. I know that sounds real bad. It's kind of like, I mean, do you listen to like your own music? I don't know. Is that comparable?
I feel like I feel like if you don't want to listen to your own music, you're doing a bad job.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good take. And so, okay, let's start there, right? So,
Yeah.
New York hardcore, very specific style, very specific sound, right? You just said if you aren't listening to your music, you're probably doing a bad job. But how often do we hear metalheads, hardcore dudes who are like, man, I just don't listen to this in my own time? Like, I play it, but I don't listen to it. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I get the whole like I think a lot of people who are involved in hardcore like go to shows constantly and like they're surrounded by it constantly, and especially if they play in a band, they probably like need the break from it. And especially like if you've been I feel like the way that for me personally, where I like took in hardcore in a specific way is like for 10 straight years, I was like, if it's not hardcore music, I don't fuck with it.
Sure.
So I think that's like why a lot of people maybe, if they're anything like me, would be like, nah, I like can't listen to hardcore. But like the only time, personally for me, the only time where I'm like I can't listen to hardcore is like when I'm on tour because I'm playing and
Yeah.
listening to bands every day. So that's when I'm like, I think I need a break. But even then, I'll say that, but then like in the van, I'm blasting some shit. So I think I'm just a liar.
No, dude, it totally creeps in. There's days where I'm like, I need something other than hardcore, you know? So then I'll start with like country or something. I'm like, this isn't scratching the itch. And then like an hour later, I'm listening to like Beatdown or something and creeps
Yeah, I mean,
in.
like I think like just it's kind of like anyone else's preference where they just like kind of go in waves of their mood if they want to listen to hardcore or not. But like, yeah, no, I listen to hardcore. I'd say most days if I'm listening to music like that. Yeah, I'm gonna throw on some hardcore shit.
So what are you listening to when you're not?
Um, a lot of hip hop. Uh, a lot of oldie shit, like a lot of old like classic rock stuff. Uh, mm, yeah, stuff like that.
So, do you still keep your toes in like Iron Maiden, like the old metal stuff that way and everything? Because I was listening to the Hard Lord podcast with you, and you had mentioned all that stuff,
Oh
and
yeah,
so you keep your feet in into that stuff right there.
oh yeah. I just saw Iron Maiden
Mm.
like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, for
It
real?
was yeah, and it was they still got it, man. They're old, but they still rip it.
That's awesome.
Dude,
Yeah,
My boss just said that Ozzy is doing like he's uh what do you call it? Pay-per-view, his last show. And it's like a
yeah.
stacked lineup, man.
They're doing the last Sabbath show ever, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's crazy. It's crazy to
Hey,
think that.
I mean, it's I think it's even crazier that he made it to this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, okay, we'll just get right into this. We don't want to keep you all night, right? So, coming out of New York, you mentioned hip hop, you mentioned that influence. We come from the West Coast, right? We're out in Utah, is where we were raised, is where we
Mhm.
come from. New York to me has always had that hip hop flair, and New York hardcore has always been kind of associated with that. So, listening to the Hard Lord podcast, you got into this through like System of a Down, is what you had mentioned and stuff. Talk to me about New York hardcore in general. If like you're talking to a West Coast kid, give me like a synopsis of like what to expect if you've never listened to like New York hardcore.
Uh, it's a loaded question.
It is.
I mean, like, yeah, I guess like I feel like most when you think of iconic New York hardcore bands, like it's just like yeah, of course you have like the agnostic fronts and Cro-Mags where they were kind of like they were just fast, but I mean even then you go into later agnostic front records and then you go into Cro-Mags and then it's got that flavor to it. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't the thing about New York hardcore is if I'm describing it to someone, I can't describe it. It's like those guys were pulling from shit that people weren't thinking about pulling from, I feel, until they did it. You know what I mean? And like that's why it has that unique style that people try to emulate from all over the country. You know what I mean? Like yeah, and then you had Madball, which they brought it like over the top with the hip hop like influence for sure. And like they had that bounce and like even Sick of It All had that hip hop bounce and I think it's just, I think it was funny. When I mentioned this on Hardlore, so I apologize. But when I played with Killing Time at Tompkins, I was just kind of asking Carl. I was like, "Yo, how do you like write? How did you write the Killing Time Brightside LP?" And like he was just like, "Yeah, I don't know. I was just a punk kid like who found hardcore and loved like Iron Maiden and Slayer and Celtic Frost and like." Yeah, that's another thing. Like, those bands just took from a lot of dope metal too. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's just, and I could be wrong when I say this that they were like the first people doing it, but I mean, those were the bands that were laying the groundwork for where a lot of bands pull from, I feel, you know? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
that's my
cool.
long-winded, that's my
It's
long-winded
so
description.
like it's really funny saying that. We grew up in Utah. I moved down to Texas like a few years
Mm.
ago. And even just coming down to Texas, like you notice there's like different influences, right? There's a different sound. It's very in Texas, like it's very thrash, crossover. You get a lot of that. But you look at bands like Pantera that came out of Texas, so like you get where people are pulling
Yeah,
influences from. So like we have this really cool fascination with like the Northeast hardcore scene because to us it's like completely foreign. Because in Utah, most of our influence came from like California because we're just like a couple states away, right?
yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, also like that time period for when all those bands were coming out, it's just like so influential in general, like
mhm.
in a whole like sphere of it all. Like, you had all the breakdancing shit, you had the b-boy shit, you had the graffiti shit, like
Mhm.
and they were just living in a time and place where it was just grimy, bro. Like you had to fight for your fucking life when you step out into the street and like that's gonna come out in the music that they're making. I heard a story once about like Craig Ahead from Sick of It All was apparently like walking to make copies of Leeway demos or like had the Leeway demos in his hand and like just walking down the street and some dude just tried to mug him. He's like, "Yo, take my money or whatever," but like you can't take the demo. You know what I mean? But like that was their reality, you know what I mean? Like they were living in squats and they were just fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
So it's gonna come out in their music, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. So super dumb question, but like, the like kill, marry, fuck game. So like
Yeah, yeah.
kill, marry, fuck New York hardcore, with Judge, Agnostic Front, Sick of It All.
Oh man.
Dude, I sat there thinking about this too, and I was like, I don't
Uh,
know.
you know what? No, I thought it was hard at first, but like when you really sit there and think about it, it's pretty easy. So like I have to kill Judge, and
Okay.
I'm gonna marry Sick of It All and fuck Agnostic Front.
All right.
Yeah.
Rationale.
I mean, Judge is incredible, but like when you look at the grand scheme of, I mean, Sick of It All and AF have
Yeah.
discographies,
Yeah.
records upon records that are incredible. Where like, hey, I love the Judge shit, but to me personally also it doesn't hold a candle to Sick of It All and AF. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't I mean, I'm a huge fan of Judge. So, like, I don't know. But
I I mean, hey, I love
it's
Judge
hard,
too.
dude. It's hard. Yeah. Yeah. It's just such a cool legacy, man. Like, it's just such a cool legacy to, come from a scene like that. I mean, do you think, though, that, like, does it put a lot of pressure? Does it put a lot of added pressure on bands coming out of New York?
I'm not sure how bands out of New York feel about that because there weren't any for so long. And when I was starting to play in bands, I didn't feel pressure, more where I felt drive because we were so unrepresented for so long. We were lacking for so long. So I felt like I need to be the one putting on. So
Mm.
it wasn't pressure, more like I said, like drive to be the next generation that shows people that New York is still putting on,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
That's an interesting way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah.
So talk about that period, because when did it start to slow down? Like, you started playing in bands 2006, 7, somewhere in there. Does
I
that sound
mean,
about right?
bad, stupid little ones, yeah, for sure.
Sure. But you're getting involved with the scene, right? So whether they're
Yeah.
bad or stupid or stuff, you're starting to get exposed to your local scene. You're
Mhm.
starting to go to shows and stuff like that. So it's at least doing something at that time. It's not totally dead. At
Yeah.
what point did you feel like it started to like kind of go away? And then 2017 is when you guys like kick off, right?
So it's not that I felt that it was gone because there were shows happening and like the scene was thriving because like when bands come, the city's such a big place and like people are gonna come. And of course, like Black and Blue Bowl was still a thing long until, you know what I mean? It still is, and it was still happening when I was a kid. But the thing was, there were no new bands from New York City proper coming out for so long. There was like, so you had Line of Scrimmage, you had like Mind Piece for a minute, which was members of King Nine, and then
Yeah.
some Staten Island people, and then uh, like there just weren't a lot of, like I said, New York City proper bands. So it wasn't that there was no scene. It was just that there were no bands coming out of the city. You know what I mean? And like, and then there was like a weird, like very big, like metalcore resurgence, like for New York City, and that was popping for a while in like a different sect. But there was shows happening all the time. But like the bands for so long that were like representing New York hardcore were all Long Island bands. So I think I would say from, I mean, again, I got into hardcore when I was like, it was like 2006, 2007. So when I first came, there weren't a lot of bands that were like popping off in New York besides Long Island, like I said. So I don't know, maybe when like the Castle Heights era stopped is when like newer bands stopped coming out like that, and it wasn't, as prevalent. So yeah, I mean, then there was a period right before Combust where it was a lot of like transplant bands coming out, which was just like kids who just like would move to the city and like have their friends and they would start their bands, but they would quickly go away anyway. So,
Mm.
you know,
So let me ask you, because you just brought up Long Island, right?
yeah.
And there's a lot of bands who are hardcore adjacent who still use Long Island hardcore on their
Yeah.
merch, on their promotion, stuff like that. Like, listen, like not throwing shade or anything, but how do you feel about like if you had like a post hardcore band
Hmm.
rocking NYHC, how do you feel about something like that where it's more adjacent than it's like actual hardcore?
Well, I think like for those kind of bands, and I mean, I imagine we're talking about the bands like Koyo and shit.
Coil,
Like,
I mean, you can even
yeah,
go as far as like Thursday and
Yeah,
stuff like
Thursday.
that.
yeah,
Used to
yeah,
throw it on there.
of course. I mean, the thing about those bands is that they were also rooted in hardcore
Right.
that I would never get mad about a band like I mean Koyo is a good example because I mean I don't know if they really put hardcore on their stuff that often, but they're so ingrained within hardcore music and everything they do has come from there and they still are ingrained in hardcore. So like I think a lot of the Long Island stuff, even when it didn't sound exactly like a hardcore band, all those bands were so involved within that community that it was just and Long Island always had like a weird flair to
Hmm.
a lot of their bands too. You know, I mean, Long Island kind of there was like a definitive Long Island hardcore sound. So yeah, they they could be saying whatever they want.
Sure. And obviously Long Island can, but like coming from New York, right? New
Yeah,
York hardcore, right?
yeah.
Like, how far can we take this? Are you saying like who can use the New York hardcore badge? This is
Like as
coming from
far as
Andrew Baconti.
If
You
you're from New
gotta be the
Jersey,
one who
no, I'm just
says
kidding.
now, what are we saying? As far as sound or geographically?
no. Sound. How
Sound.
far sound rooted can you go from here? Like we're not talking like polka bands throwing New York hardcore on their crap, right?
Why not, dude?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have yet to see a band where it's like egregious where they call themselves a hardcore band and it's like so far out of the realm. I think like I don't know, a lot of times I think about it's like such a silly age-old question like what should we say
What
is
is
hardcore and
hardcore?
what isn't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I like to reference when Tom Sheehan from Indecision was like the only thing sometimes that was separating us from being a metal band and being a hardcore band was like the fact that we had something to say and talking about indecision. And I mean, I get like it really is the way that you present like what you're doing with the band. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, technically, like there could be bands that don't all the way sound like Agnostic Front. You know what I mean? But they're still a hardcore band because like the spirit of it and the way they
Yeah.
present the band and the way that they're ingrained within their community and how they came through, I
It's
think
such
it's like a broad it's such a weird broad and like sometimes selective spectrum that
it is. It's funny,
it's up to
like
the people.
I don't know. And like I unfortunately spend time on Reddit. And holy cow, people get pissed off and you name a band that's not hardcore hard. I don't know. Everyone freaks out about it. But I always laugh because when anyone ever asks me, it's like that, what was that president that was talking about porn? He's like, you know it when you see it. It's kind of how I feel about hardcore. It's like you just kind
Yeah,
of know it when you hear it
that's
or see
fair.
them.
Yeah, I mean like at first listen, would you ever consider like Life of Agony a hardcore band? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like we know they're a hardcore band.
Yeah.
But like an outsider person, what would they say if they hear Life of Agony for the first time? And I'm not even talking River Runs Red stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about if you throw on Lost at 22.
Right.
I like you tell someone, oh, this is hardcore, and they'd be like, oh, well, this is like it's not like this. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
You even listen to
the
like Gorilla
eye of
Biscuits.
the beholder.
Yeah, go listen to Gorilla Biscuits, and you're like, that doesn't sound like anything that I'm listening to in 2025. And you know what's funny? Like just thinking about that, like talking to my wife, like she had some friends that were asking because they went to like some Taylor Swift dance party at some club, I don't know. And on the other side of the club, there was like a black metal concert. And like everyone's like all face painted with like the
Yeah.
upside down cross and all this stuff. And her friends are like, is that what your husband listens to? So I've had to like explain the difference between like dark looking or sounding music and like hardcore because like I'm more like you have a better chance of getting a hit at a hardcore show that maybe doesn't sound sonically as heavy or dark as like a black metal,
Yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
visually it's different. But like the heaviness, I don't know, like heavy to me is like, do I have a better chance of getting hit in the face? You know?
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm sure every generation of hardcore and the bands that came with it, probably within their own sect and like their scenes, probably had these same arguments within their circle of people.
yeah.
Like, oh, this isn't a hardcore band, like. But I mean,
Look, man, we grew up in the MySpace era and we freaking swung to like attack crap. So like I don't even care, dude, if there's a breakdown or even anything close to getting me moving. Like what,
yeah, no.
I'm swinging. So,
Hey, feel what you feel, brother. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Hey, so I've got a follow-up question then in terms of like, so you had mentioned on that, I keep referring to the hardware episode, but
That's
it's so
fine.
sorry, man. But like one thing that you didn't go into, you just kind of briefly talked about it, is like when you were coming up, you mentioned that you had an old head that
Mhm.
kind of helped guide you in
Yeah.
hardcore, helped you show you the DIY ethos, all of that kind of stuff. So I mean, I don't know if you want to like shout him out or anything, if you're still connected with that person, but like in terms of old heads and helping to continue to grow the scene, promote the scene, show what it's about. How do you feel about like old heads back then compared to our kids just using social media now to get into this? And is there like a lack of respect for kind of that generation before?
Well, to start from where you started, yeah, I mean, big shout out to Chris, Robots Will Kill. That's my cousin. He's the one who got me into all this shit. Still straight edge, still doing his thing. Ultra respect. I got nothing but love and respect for him every day. Um, as far as like how old heads are now and like, how kids get into it, I mean, yeah, there's just such a different way that you see people take in learning about hardcore now. Because, yeah, like they're just exposed to quite literally everything in such a different way. So, their exposure is viral videos.
Right.
That's what gets kids into it. I think there's still people holding the torch for being an old head and like guiding people. I think that still exists. I mean, I know it does because I have been that for people, and I know younger people who talk about having old heads, and I think there is definitely a clear-cut difference to how the people who were brought into it from other people who care take it, and then the kids that you can easily tell were brought in from TikTok videos, you know? And it's not that it's a negative thing, it's just it creates such a bigger net
Mm.
now. So like now everyone can like find out about it. And I think what's important is that like just like every other era of hardcore music, there's gonna be the kids that eventually just drop out and just like they're over it. It was like X amount of years for them, whatever. But like now there's so many of those people where it's like I said, a viral moment. So they're flocking to this like just for the fanfare, So
Right.
like, it's gonna be that in a bigger form. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
see the people fall off but like now it's just gonna be bigger numbers because it was just like, oh, it was cool for like, that short amount of time because we got cool videos and then it was over. But again, it's not bad if they come into it from TikTok. It's just what happens after, like how
Hmm.
they're introduced and exposed to it after they come in from TikTok. So you can either reject them and talk a bunch of shit, or you could like just show them.
Yeah.
And if they're not about trying to learn about the stuff that matters and learn the old way, you know what I mean? Like then they obviously they don't care, and then it'll be that for them, and that's what it is, you
You know,
know?
it's crazy because like I absolutely see what you're saying. And it's just funny because you see the TikTok videos of crowd killing, you see the people going to the edge of the pit and just swinging hard, right?
Yeah.
And you go to a show and there's this new group of kids. They try to go to the edge of the pit and swing hard, and
Yeah.
every now and again they hit the wrong person and they find out kind of the hierarchy and all this stuff. But the thing is, like, it's they can learn all about the history. They come into that and they feel like they know what hardcore is until you get that first shot in the mouth. And
Uh,
then you kind of like,
I mean,
what is hardcore?
but that's also been a thing since
Mhm.
forever too. I mean, there's been videos of crazy dancing on YouTube, even back when I was a kid, you know? And I mean, yeah, definitely there's like a wave of kids who are very just what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, just like carefree about who like and they ain't even hitting hard. So it's like, what
Sure.
are you doing? But
Yeah.
like yeah, obviously, yeah, we're older. We come from a world where it's like, oh, yo, you can't be just anyone hitting someone.
Yeah.
You
It,
gotta
it,
like, you
it's
know,
so funny because like when we were coming up, like you were like, when this band's playing on those certain breakdowns, you either hold your own or you take a step back and let them kind of run the ship for a minute. And still, every now and again, you got caught and you kind of understood where you stand in the hierarchy of
Yeah.
everything. But
Dude, I
it's
tell
interesting.
I tell a story all the time of like seeing Shai Halud. I was like 16, and like when that pit broke out, I was like, nope, there's like a 40-year-old guy with face tattoos, and I'm like 16. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna hang in the back for a little bit, you know?
Shia Lute is such a funny band to think would have
I
like
know.
that's like a moment where you gotta hide.
Yeah.
I
It's funny.
think Shia Lute's the smart guy band.
uh,
We talk about like hardcore, is it hardcore kind of thing? And that's like a perfect example. Like the breakdowns aren't quite the breakdowns, but people are killing each other during
yeah.
that stuff.
I mean I didn't really find myself in many Shia Lute pits to attest to that, but I mean if y'all are saying that's the vibe, then
Yeah, at least in Salt
I
Lake,
believe
man. Salt Lake
I
has
I,
a
I,
history and
I
stuff. So,
believe you.
so kind of going back into a little bit of what Trevor was asking, because I think you're only like a couple years. I'm turning 35 this year, so I think you're only like a couple years younger than me.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
31.
yeah, okay. So yeah, we kind of had like the same time frame and stuff. I was talking to this band from Oklahoma that was asking about pulling their music off of like Spotify, off of streaming services, just because they're not like happy with the company and things like that, right? Do you think there's a way for bands to like make it without that? Like, how much has streaming impacted you? Because I mean, you guys don't make money off of it, right? You don't make money like you would selling vinyls or CDs
I mean,
or whatever. But
define
does it
making
matter
define making money. Like like
enough to
pocket
do what you're
change?
doing, right? Like,
Like
does it
pocket
help?
change? I mean like I don't know many hardcore bands in general who are like looking to put their shit on Spotify to like live off of it. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's another thing that's kind of misconstrued where and I'm not saying this goes for everyone, but I think I think a lot of new kids like are kind of tricked into this pipe dream where they see these bands that are huge and they're like, "Oh, I can start a hardcore band and like I'll be and like, you know, I can eat off this shit." And it's like it's a very select few that are able to do that, man. Like
yeah,
like this music was never designed that way.
yeah,
Like I mean, if you're putting your shit on Spotify and you're like, "Oh, I'm not getting enough money to pay the rent." Like you gotta
No shit.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
bro. Like
But you're right though. Like the mentality, I think of these younger bands has changed. Of like, I'm gonna get big
I'm
off of
just
social media, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever, instead of
that's
like
insane.
Haywire. You know, Haywire's playing 400 shows in the U.S. Like,
That's insane, dude. Like the way it always was tour, tour, tour. You wanna maybe get out like and even then tour was like not even when I wanted to tour, that was never a means a living for me. That was like, yo, I want to get in a van with my boys and just gun it and just play some shows. Like that's another thing that's lost on the new generation of kids. And I'm not trying to be on my whole old head shit, but like, where's the drive to just get in the van and go? The problem is that newer kids are finding it. New kids are not kids. They're like people, they're full grown adults, like getting into hardcore music for the
Yeah.
first time. And that's why a lot of new bands are not getting in the van and just going because they can't, because they probably have like a child and a 9 to 5. And I don't know how your brain chemistry fit this shit at that point. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, like just start a band and get in the van and go. And that's the coolest part of all of this. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like the whole streaming thing is that's just so people can easily like sing
Listen to
along
you.
at the
Yeah.
gig, bro. That's if you're looking for the streaming thing to make a buck, you're fucking shot. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I never was like, gotta get our shit on Spotify so we can start making this bread, yo. I was like, I just want people to be able to hear the shit,
Yeah.
you
Dude,
know?
that's so fair. And you've been doing this for a long time. When did you like start touring heavily? Because it was with Vice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like 18, 19 when I did like my first real tour, like instead of just weekenders or like 4 day things. Um, yeah, like I've like so I went to college for 1 semester and dropped out to tour. And that it was just off like that.
So
And
you're
then
into this 13, 14 years. You just told us that you just came off tour doing merch for Terror over in
yeah.
Europe. Like, you're like, it's just like part of your life at this point. Whether you're playing or merching or
Mhm.
just whatever, you're just on the road.
I'm I was the type of kid where so Vice would do these silly fucking tours too. Like we were just kids who didn't know any better. You know what I mean? So we were just like we just wanted to play, man. So we we had a pickup truck, mind you. This is what we toured in. And we would do like I would book these 50, 60 day American tours and we would just do it in a pickup truck and like we did that for a few years until we got our first van. And then we did that for a few years. Then we got another van because that one shit out. I mean, but I was always the kid on the tour. I was like, it could be a 45-day tour. I'm like, yo, I don't want to go home, man. I just like yeah, I mean, there is something about the feeling and the I don't know. And even when I was broke, like dead broke, because like when I was in Vice, I was dead broke. Like we were stealing shit. We were stealing shit to survive. Like we had to go into Walmart and eat and leave. Like that's
Right.
how that's how we lived. Like we would do this shit where we had like a pressure like a like a propane little propane thing
Yeah.
and like a hot plate and then we had like a skillet and we would just like run up in the Walmart and just like steal whatever we could like chop meat and hot dogs and then we would be like all right and then we'll just buy the buns to like cover our ass to make it look like we're buying some shit and because the buns would be $1
Yeah.
and then we would just like go out into a parking lot somewhere and just make burgers and hot dogs and that's just like that's how we would live or we would like beg restaurants to give us the food that they were throwing away. It was gnarly sometimes, bro, but like even then, like even when it was like the worst of the worst, when you're playing a show to 5 people in the middle of fucking nowhere and like you can't eat, it's still like, yo, we're in this shit.
Yeah.
And I'm just with my best friends having a good time. I don't know. That's what hardcore gave me, you know?
That's it. So give us a story. Give us a story from those early days. Broke, stealing from Walmart, begging for food and stuff like that. But like, what is like one that like stands out of like, holy shit, this is why I do this.
This is why I do this. With Vice, I can't really find one because it was just like constant. it was Vice was constant, just like torture and beat down. It was just like we tried so hard, and every tour was just like, you want this band to be cool and have people like it? Nah, bro, it's not gonna happen for you. I mean, we played cool shows here and there. I don't know. Like, I think if it was ever a good show, or like, you just have like those little moments in time that you'll never forget. Like, yo, I wouldn't have seen anything in America outside of Staten Island probably if it wasn't for hardcore. You know what I mean? I remember, like, a memory that I hold very close to me is like the first time, like, being in Vegas, and we're in like
Oh, sick.
yeah, we're in like Caesar's Palace, kind of just like looking at everything. But I'm too young to even fucking get into the casino anyway. But like, I'm just like looking out into Vegas on some corny shit, and I'm just like, yo, this is cool. I'm out here with my friends, like in Vegas, because we play in this stupid band. Just like something like that, you know? It's
Yeah.
just, I think I would say now, like, I'm grateful that I did all the shit eating, because then I don't think all the stuff that Combust has gotten to do would mean as much, you know?
Mm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was cool to see you guys. It's funny talking about that because it was cool to see you guys a couple months ago down in DFW at a dive bar. You know,
Oh, dude, that Texas run was awesome, man. That show was cool. Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And, you're heading out to do like a West Coast tour, right? In next
Yeah.
week, right? I think it starts next week.
Yeah, I get to catch you in like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, we leave in like 7 days. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited for that one. That'll be sick. Sound and Fury for the first time. That'll be cool.
Oh, that's way cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were thinking about doing that, but I don't know. Some of those fests, man. There's too many of them now. You know, you
There
can't choose.
are a lot of fests. I
Yeah.
don't
Listen,
blame.
man. And I applaud you for sticking to this and doing this and everything because, like, at some point, I gave up thinking there was any chance of music and stuff like that. I've got kids at home. I've got a wife. Like, you know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
hey, if I had a kid and a wife, I'm sure I would have felt the same way. I mean, the only difference for me is that Vice deteriorated, and then I mean, I tried to do the 9 to 5 thing, and then, like, holy alignment, it just like the life
Yeah.
wouldn't let me do the 9 to 5 thing. So it was just like, I don't know, it worked out cool like that.
yeah,
I'm
dude.
glad. I'm kind of glad that I got fired.
Hey, we're glad too, man, because your guys' music freaking rips. So,
Thank you,
Yeah,
bro.
dude. Yeah, dude.
um,
Let's talk about Belly of the Beast.
Yes, for sure.
So this came out this year, right? March of this year, so only a few months old. Uh, Talk to us just a little bit about this one. The last album felt a little bit more metallic. This
Mhm.
one feels a little bit more New York hardcore, in my
Mm.
opinion. Just like
Okay.
is the vibe I got. I got a little bit more of that hip hop flair and stuff like that, and it just came through so well. So I think you mentioned that you started writing for Combust, but you started out as a bass player. So how did you start writing riffs? How did you get into guitar and start to develop the sound that is Combust?
I mean, bass was the first thing I picked up. Like, I played bass in bands before I sang in bands. Um, and I never like thought of myself as a good bass player. I mean, I would like I started rooted in metal, so I guess that's why, like, like, I'm able to play pretty well now, But I never thought that I'd be able to play guitar, because I was just like, again, I was like just a hardcore dude that was like, I pick up an instrument and fucking play it, man. Like, I don't know. And I never tried to write music ever. I was like, solely because when I started fronting a band finally, I was like solely lyrics guy. I was just like, yo, bring me the music, and I'll fucking, like, I'm all about writing shit. That's just what I had an interest in. I really, really liked writing lyrics. And I never even thought about trying to write music for any band that I was in. And then when it came to when it came to Combust, I'm trying to remember, like, maybe like right before that, Combust, like I was playing drums in another band, and I think for like the last thing that other band did, I kind of would like dabble on guitar, and I had this shitty guitar, this like Fender that was missing strings, and I didn't even have a guitar pick. I had like a nickel, and and uh
I remember like
and
breaking credit cards and stuff
no,
and using the
literally like
corners.
it
Yeah,
was it was so absurd. And yeah, and then I had like an idea for a Combust song in my head, and I was like, all right, let me try to put this to the guitar, and then I just gradually kind of like picked it up from there, and like now I can confidently say I can play guitar, which is cool.
sick.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it just kind of snowballed like that, where I was just like, oh, I want to get better at playing guitar so I can write better. So
And
yeah.
why this sound?
I mean, it was just a sound that was always like my favorite bands, and it was kind of weird that at this point I was like, I can't believe that at this point in my life I have not played in a band that is a New York hardcore sounding band. Because like I said, not to bring it up again, but Vice was such like a big part, but it was at a point in my life where the big things for me and my friends were like, yeah, we love the classic shit, but like our high school career was all trash talk and ceremony
Mm.
and outbreak and mongoloids and all that shit. Like, that era,
Right.
like the Cruel Hand and Brace Wars and all that. And we were like, yo, we want to do a band like that. So, and that band lasted so long that, I never got a chance to do what actually influenced me from the jump, you know? So yeah, I was just like, there's no bands from the city that sound like a New York hardcore band right now. I think that we need to fill that hole. So
Sick.
yeah.
So when did you realize you could scream? Is this something you've been doing since you were younger?
Dude,
Was,
man.
did you just like want to do that for Combust?
I mean, I scream. I remember so my first band was like a metal band that I played bass and sang for. And I would like learn how to do like super like crazy metal vocals for that.
Yeah.
Like because we would cover Lamb of God and shit.
Oh dang.
So I was on my like I'm a vocalist shit. And I learned how to do that and I was pretty good at it. And then when that band kind of like that metal band kind of like twisted into a version of the first version of Vice kind of. So like it was me, the bass player and the guitar player playing in the metal band that like would eventually become
Hmm.
Vice. And then we took out the drummer and the guitar player and got two new guys. But yeah, I mean, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna front the band. But then I had to, mix up the way that I sang, obviously, because you can't do Iron Maiden and Lamb of God style vocals in a hardcore band. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just I felt kind of natural singing for bands, just like off the rip, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt like I like when I dropped the bass and just did straight vocals for like the metal band. I was like, yeah, like this is where I'm fucking supposed to be, you know.
I don't know if it
So
was like
you
a hey, I'm tired of getting shit on being a bass player because everyone hates bass players. So
well,
I'm gonna front the band. Yeah.
I was the bass player and the
And the
front man.
vocal. That's right. That's
So it
right.
was like it was. At one point I said, "Yo, this is too hard.
Yeah.
oh okay.
I
So
can't play and do these things." No.
I mean you seem like a very confident guy. Did you ever have like the nervousness of being in front of people and doing that kind of stuff?
I remember the first time I ever did anything like that was at a talent show at my school, and we did Crazy Train,
oh sick.
and it was yeah, that was the first time. But for the first time, I was like, "This is crazy. I'm gonna throw up." Sometimes I get a little like if the show is like big, like way big, that because I mean Combust doesn't play to like thousands of people, but like on that off chance where we do it at like a big festival or something, my nerves get a little worked up for sure. Because like you know sometimes I don't know if it'll that a crowd that big would like translate well for us.
Mm,
Like we did a Terror tour last year where a lot of it was like big European venues where it would be like 2,000 cap venues or something with like barricades and shit. And we've never done a tour like that where it was like that all the time. And it's a different vibe you got to bring where it's like there's not that super close connection to crowd and band.
yeah.
So it's like I got to be on my A game to like get people into us because I'm like, the small room is not going to serve me this way right now because it's not a small room. It's a
Right.
fucking.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
But
got you.
I mean, I'm sure along the way, I was like, there was definitely a very cocky side of me as a teenager. I'm like, yeah, I fucking got this.
Listen, man, I'm a car vocalist, man. I can throw down my car, but you won't see me grabbing the mic at a show. Like,
Hey, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's intimidating.
um, one thing I wanted to ask about with the albums is the artwork.
Mhm.
Because I'm a huge fan of like Another Life and Belly of the Beast, and even a lot of the like, I don't know, EPs and demos and stuff you have.
Mhm.
Like, do you handle a lot of the art, or is it a specific image that you look for when you're doing this stuff?
I've always just been a fan of hand drawn shit. And the most over the top. I mean, like I said, like, I come from the world of metal, and I don't know, all my favorite album covers were just like the dopest, like yo, I mean, like all the Iron Maiden album art and all that shit. And I remember when I was getting into hardcore, like Humanity is the Devil
Mm.
was like, whoa, this is the dopest artwork of all time. Like I was always just drawn to like the more crazy out there, darker hand drawn shit rather than like the live shot or like the over the top graphic design stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, like all of our album art was hand drawn for everything since the demo. So
that's awesome. That's way cool. I feel like that's a lost art a little bit, you know?
I mean, yeah, and it's no diss to bands who do. I think there's a lot of cool ones that are like that. I like that touch,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we talk
yeah,
all the time on here about like a lot of these bands bringing back um like physical mediums,
Hmm.
vinyls, CDs, whatever. And it's just like I miss being able to grab an album and actually sit there and look at the album
Exactly.
cover and the
Yeah,
art.
exactly.
And
Like it's just and like you sit there and it's like, whoa, this is like a piece of art.
yeah,
Like down to the music, down to the way that the record is, like the album art. Like, yeah, I 100% agree.
yeah.
so back to Belly of the Beast, real quick. What is your guys' closer currently when you guys are playing shows?
The knife, I guess.
The
That's been
knife.
Yeah, the knife has been a closer for like a few years now. Damn. Yeah.
So when you're writing music, because usually the closer is the one that just like it kind of hits the hardest, right? It's like it's the way to cap off the night.
Hmm.
When you were writing the knife, can you remember? Were you putting it together and be like, "Oh damn, like this is gonna go off"?
Mm, I mean, so the knife actually, so since that was on another life, like so our homie Connor Jones had a big hand in helping me write that record. Um, that song was like a whole different thing before Connor came to us and was like, "How about this instead for like an idea?" And the only thing that stayed the same kind of from what my original thing was the ending. But that ending was for a different song. So like that got chopped and screwed in Frankenstein. So like when we were doing the knife, I was like, I don't know. I mean, in my head, I was like, yo, I love this breakdown.
Yeah.
I was like, this riff is so fucking sick. Uh, yeah, in my head, I was like, yeah, like definitely there was a part of me where it's like when this shit like rings out and there's like the fucking vocal part, I'm like, yeah, I could see people fucking singing along and then going crazy to this and like
Yeah.
coincidentally that is the vibe and that's cool. That's awesome.
So what do you prefer, I guess, in songs? Do you prefer the big breakdown, seeing people mosh, or do you prefer the pile on sing-alongs?
I'm a bit like as a front man, I want big pylons. That's my favorite shit. Especially if I'm seeing a band, I want that.
Yeah.
But then there's the other side of me, which is a dancer. And I love like there's nothing I love more than seeing some kids, want to fucking go absolutely crazy to like a mosh part. That's dope. Or like just a big ass sea of like motherfuckers skanking it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just that's cool as hell. But yeah, I know I think the big OSPO takes it for me.
Sick.
I love a good
So
pylon.
whether it's something you're writing currently or off of Belly and the Beast, is there a song that has stood out kind of the way that the knife stood out where you're like, man, this one goes off?
I think when the record dropped and then we started playing out, like after the record, I think like the first two songs are the most
Mm.
well received songs as well, like as far as big pops for sure. Belly the Beast and Everyone's Enemy are like seem to be the big ones, which is not a surprise necessarily because I think they're like two of my favorite songs, but like it's just it still is a little surprising sometimes for
Is
me.
there one on Belly of the Beast that hasn't popped off like you thought it would?
We still haven't played like three or four tracks off of it, which I'm trying to change. Uh, what doesn't pop off? For the first time, Swallowing Swords got a really cool reaction at Tie
Oh,
Down,
which is sick.
which I was waiting for because we would play it a few times. I'm like, damn, like no one fucking likes this song. Or maybe honestly, like when I was writing Our Own Breed, when we were writing that, I was like, damn, the song's gonna be hard. The song's gonna be sick. Sometimes it's kind of dead sometimes.
I
I
got
love the
you.
song, but sometimes like it doesn't get the pop that I thought it was gonna get. But that's okay.
Dude, it's a solid song. Swallowing Swords might have my favorite riff that you guys have done.
I love that song.
That dude, it's so cool. And that's the song where when I say it feels more New York hardcore to me, that's really the song that like pops off
Oh
in
yeah.
my head where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm picturing. That's what I'm thinking of. But dude,
Oh yeah.
Everyone's Enemy, man, it's so good. Such a good song, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's probably that like those three in a row. That's like, yeah, that's my favorite shit on the record for sure.
Dude, so cool. So cool. Well, dude, last question I have, and then we aren't going to take up any more of your time. But you have, and I love that New York is doing this currently. Pain of Truth has done this, Missing Link has done this. You guys have so many guest spots, guest
Mm,
vocals. And you have Mind Force, which is more of a contemporary with you, but then you got like Danny Diablo, you got like the old head coming in. So
yeah.
like what is one of your favorite guest spots, either because of the vocalist itself or just like the way that it turned out on the song?
Damn. One of my favorite. I think shit. They're also dope to me for different reasons. I've always said from the jump, like I never want someone on the record who like I don't feel like is someone who number one supports us in a big way, and number two like is someone I call my homie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I mean every Combust part if it's a guest spot, like means something to me. So it's hard to put like a favorite on it, but it's a toss up between Ezek and Scott's part for sure.
Sure. Dude.
Because I mean Scott's just a genius with like placing shit and
Yeah.
like making it memorable. Like I remember him sending that part back to us, and I was like, it's like, yeah, damn, this is just like this is a terror part now.
Yeah.
It's like it's a terror song now.
Yeah.
But getting Ezek to do a song about New York hardcore with us is just like full circle shit as a kid. So yeah, and he still sounds so fucking good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it was one of those things where I was listening to you guys as we were kind of prepping for this, that I was like, you know what? I don't know how much I've really listened to Scarhead. I don't know how much I've really listened to Crown of Thorns. So I spent like, I go and I work at a golf course like every other morning
Yeah.
and like mowing and stuff. So it's 4 a.m. and I'm playing Scarhead albums and Crown of Thorns and Combust and stuff. I'm like, man, this is a way to wake you up rather quick.
Scarhead, I can see like it takes a little bit for people to get it, but Crown of Thorns is like undeniable.
Oh
Like
yeah.
zero bad tracks. That's just a perfect band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scarhead was dope, man. Scarhead's fun.
I love
Like,
Scarhead, but I know a lot of people who are just like, not for me, which I'm like, okay, I guess, but
sure. But when you're talking New York hardcore and stuff like that, like, yeah, you've got to put them in there. Kind of is like, this is something you
100%.
can listen to. Go listen to it.
Ezek holds the crown, man.
100%. 100%. And I mean, dude, he'll fight, what's his name from Trap. So
I think he'll fight anyone, you know?
that's true. I mean, I guess don't put it against him. So, but dude, thank you so much. Seriously appreciate you. I'm super stoked to catch you. You guys are out here in Salt Lake on the 18th.
Hell yeah, man.
I'll be out there. We'll be catching you then. I just went and saw Haywire last night and it popped off. I expect the same. I expect the same for you guys coming through.
Yo,
So
band's doing crazy shit. God bless. So sick.
Seriously.
for real.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you again for having me on here, guys. I appreciate it.
Dude, anytime, man. We appreciate it. So
Dope.
I don't know how to end the recording. Give me a second. I'll figure it out. Where is it? Stop. Okay, there.